Welcome, people. It is I, Krupus136, and there's a patch. And I am right on the money with it because the patch just came out, I don't even know, a couple minutes ago, 10 minutes, something like that. So for once, I am ready to roll with the patch. So, number one, I'm going to talk about the gameplay update, which is very minor, before the patch. Basically, they changed the way that bans work, okay? So now you actually have a ban list, which I already did, and it erased it. I'm not sure why that was, but I do know who I was banning. You select 4 heroes to ban. I remember 2 of them. I don't remember them all, though. This is Phantom Lancer. And I think I chose Visage. So these are my bans. At least one of these heroes will be banned, okay? It's going to be banned no matter what. This prevents you from... this prevents you from having people who are using, like Overwolf, I think it was called, to be like, oh, I want to see what heroes this person plays. I'm going to ban their hero and get the 50-50. Doesn't work anymore. Because the moment you're locked into the match, you can't change this, right? This is your go-to bans. So when you enter the match, if it's like, oh man, my opponent is a Nature's Prophet spammer, well, that's too bad. Sucks to be you. If you really wanted to use a third-party program to see that they play Nature's Prophet and you want to try to counterpick, that's a different story, right? But that comes with more risks. Rather than just knowing and trying to ban their hero, which is a no-risk situation, now you're committing to a hero pick, and they don't have to commit to Nature's Prophet. You know what I mean? So, like, Dota's trying to cut down on people basically using outside-of-game information to gain an advantage. Whether you think it's right or wrong, I like the change. I think it's good. On top of that, they now have the ability to talk about the preferences of matches. So in the settings, in the labs, thought it was in the labs. They just said this. I swear that's what they said. Okay, I'm just trying to figure this out. I haven't.
Ban list is?
What are you talking about?
Talking about the ban list?
I was talking about the match quality thing. I think right now all it does is it tells you. You don't have to select anything. So basically now, if you have Dota Plus, which I think is Dota Plus right now, it'll give you this assessment. You know, your match quality is good, skill balance, the region you're in, which doesn't really matter, but ping, skill range, and behavior. And you can choose to queue again instead of, with no negative, instead of keeping the match. It's to allow people who look and say, look, this match looks like shit, and just not play the match. So it has like skill range, all players, you know, it's like red, which means it's crazy, you know, weak players or crazy strong players. You'd be like, nah, I don't want that match, thanks. Or behavior score is really bad, right, on all players. You'd be like, nah, I don't want to talk to people in my game, pass. Which I think is a really good thing. So on to 7.35D. Thankfully the patch isn't huge. I read through it pretty fast. I read most of it already. This is a good patch, by the way. I like a lot of the changes. BKB 5-second cooldown nerf. Already amazing, right? BKB is one of the biggest items in the entire game, so seeing it get a nerf is important. I think it needs these kind of nerfs. Not nerfs to the fact that how magic resistance works. Well, you know, Avatar, the magic immunity works, basically. I want to see nerfs to, like, cooldown. I think that's, or cost. Those are much better nerfs in my opinion. So this is the right way to go. Divine Rapier got a nerf too. Now, it does give 100 damage always, but the extra 250, like the difference between 350 and 100, and the 25% spell amp, have to be toggled back and forth. So you either have the extra 250 damage equaling 350, or you have 25% spell amp and still the regular 100 damage. It has a cooldown of 6 seconds, which isn't very long, but it prevents you from having a... shut up, Inferi. It prevents you from having a universally just always good item. Technically speaking, this means it should be bought even less than it was, which isn't bought very often anyway. But it also reduces the risk that if it's really good for you to have damage, and just damage, right? But they have a hybrid hero who's both good at damage and spells. I'm thinking of Morphling. Now it's not so risky to lose it to Morphling because he has to choose damage or spell amp. He can't just do both. He has to take that cooldown with it. So there is technically some upside, but generally Divine Rapier is getting a nerf, and I think that's needed. I have Scotty got a 30 health, 30 mana bonus. I think that's needed. I have Scotty is good, but it wasn't amazing, so good. Uh, Helm of the Dom and Helm of the Overlord now give you the money when you dominate a creep. Since you're not allowed to kill your own creep, besides throwing it to the enemy, which is not the same, if you use it on a creep, it's basically saying, I'm not going to get any money for this creep. Now they're like, okay, look, that seems really punishing. It's like you killed the creep, so you'll get the money as soon as you dominate the creep. I don't know how I feel about this, because it makes Helm of the Dom and Helm of the Overlord better. And I don't really like that. I wish Helm of the Dominator and Helm of the Overlord were removed from the game, to be honest with you. But whatever. They nerfed the Pierce chance for Javelin, Maelstrom, and Gleipnir by 5%, making evasion much stronger. Because now some of the bigger answers to evasion, not counting MKB, have gotten their ability to, go through. Because basically, when you proc, it pierces evasion and damage. Same thing with Maelstrom, right? Yep. So number one, it's less likely to do the damage, which actually lowers the damage of the item. So when you're supposed to do the way you find out the damage is you basically find out what the percentage of the chance is of the total damage, and you do the math of the damage it would do. And now, if you're looking at it, it's just much sadder. Oh yeah, Mjolnir too. It's all 4 of them. So the 5% is a really, really painful proposition, just damage-wise. The DPS of these items goes down. Magic Stick and Magic Wand both got a nerf for their cooldown. Magic Wand not touched as much, only 2 seconds, but Magic Stick is 4. They just, I think, don't want you to be able to spam this as much. You should have to have a bigger stick or wand to use it, I guess. It's minor. Manta Style got a cooldown increase of 4 seconds, which is obviously a big nerf for Manta. It means it's not up as often. The reason you get a Manta is it's kind of like a replacement for BKB for purging yourself in a fight. And the goal is that you might be able to use it a second time if the fight is particularly long. Now it's questionable if you get the second use of Manta. It's still good, and I think it's not going to match, but I don't know, Airbo. That's questionable. I don't think so. 9k is a far cry from where I am. Nettie's been climbing, though. Null Talisman finally got the buff that it needed, a mana regen buff. It increased by a whole fucking 0.25 and 0.5, because obviously it's double, so 0.25 and then the double, which is, I think, needed, because, Null is probably one of the worst of the, of these items. The Bracer, the Wraithband, Null. I think Null needed something to make it a little bit, have an edge. Mana regen bonus.
Give it back the mana cost reductions.
No, that's not going to happen. Mana regen bonus decreased on Oblivion Staff by 0.25. And because it's built out of Oblivion, Orchid lost 0.25 as well. The int bonus went down by 2, and it costs more to use Soul Burn. Bloodthorn lost 5 int, and also increased the cost by 25, just making, these big int items that are very valuable to anybody just a little bit worse. Parasma got a huge nerf. The intelligence's damage per second got decreased by 25%. I do not think this makes it a bad item. I think Parasma is still great. It was a phenomenal item, and now it's just really good. It's still going to be bought. I mean, no one's going to stop buying Parasma. But it just puts it more in line with what it probably should be. It might not even be a big enough nerf, to be honest with you. I mean, look at the fucking stats on this item. But I'll take any nerf I can get on Parasma, so, cool. Revenants, I think, might actually be almost ruined. It's still good. Maybe not, but it can no longer apply critical strikes when you're enabled. So if you have Revenants on, you cannot crit. So that ruins it for a bunch of hero builds. It just changes how you have to use Revenants, which I think is a really big change to the item. And some heroes who might already have a crit or something literally can't even buy Revenants with any kind of efficiency. Good. Shadowblade, Silver Edge, their invis lasts 3 more seconds. That's minor. I think that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. Couple neutral changes, very few. Royal Jelly lasts less when you use it on someone, but it heals for more during that time. It used to do 20 health per stack. Now it does 20, actually. Yep. It still does 20, just does it faster. Used to do 10 mana. Now it's 10 mana. Okay, it's the exact same numbers if I'm doing my math correctly. It just happens over 2 less seconds, making it a much more valuable item. So it's better, actually. Grove Bow lost 25 attack range. Good. It was too good of an item for its tier 2 status. Light Collector lost 5 movement speed, but it did increase the health and mana bonus when near trees by 25%. So, probably worth it. Oh wait, that was a nerf. Sorry. This is a okay. So it's worse when you're near trees. That's what it is. I'm sorry. Wow, that sucks. The bloom did get a bonus though. When you're in mana mode, you now the regen bonus is increased by 50%. And when your health regen bonus is increased by 50%, which is really nice. There's just little buffs there. Neutral creeps, almost no changes at all. They did nerf stacking though, so stacking now gives 5% less gold to the person who stacked, making stacking less valuable. That's because people have been multi-stacking Ancients for a long time, so it probably needed it. Let's not lie. Mud Golems have a bounce D decreased by 3, and Satyr Mind Stealers decreased by 2. So just hurting jungle in general. Stacking and as well as regular jungle. I don't think it's going to change anything meta-wise. It just sucks. Alright, AA. Small mana cost reduction. Don't care. I'm not going to talk a lot about talents unless they're big talents. So, Arc Warden talent nerfs, good. Bat Rider's Flame Break now starts much weaker with the burn duration. But it commensurately does more damage while it's actually hitting you. I think overall it's still a nerf though, because you're reducing it from 5 seconds to 2. Beastmaster randomly got a late game Inner Beast attack speed buff. Don't know why, but that's really fucking annoying. Bloodseeker is going to really come back in the meta, I think. The base agility increase of 2 is minor. 2 attack speed, 2 damage, 1/3 of an armor roughly. Okay, whatever, right? The big thing is that self-healing is now classified as lifesteal, and is amplified by lifesteal amplification, which means that a lot of items you could buy, like Sange, that increase, lifesteal amplification, because I believe Sange still does that. Am I correct? I think so. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe so.
Anything, even just getting the tier 3 item, the fucking whatever it is, the
Paladin Sword.
Yes, Paladin Sword. Now it means that he's going to get so much fucking life back, because before that wasn't a thing, and now he can amplify it, which means he's going to be so survivable. I think that might bring him back because we're in a tanky meta, and now Bloodseeker can just keep fucking going. I could be wrong, but I think so. Centaur got a needed nerf, just a damage nerf on his Hoof Stomp, good. Chaos Knight randomly got a buff. His cast range Reality Rift went up by 50 at all levels, and he does 0.1 more damage on crit on creeps. I don't know why he needed that. Seems minor, but seems annoying. His Reality Rift already is way too high of cast range. Chen's movement slow on Penitence got a late game nerf. The bonus armor on Divine Favor also got a nerf at all levels. That's a big nerf to Chen. I never see Chen played, so I don't care. Power Cogs didn't used to do any damage based on mana burn. Mana burn was just mana. It just took mana away from you. That's all it did. It did base damage and then mana. Now the mana has a burn effect, meaning it hurts. So now half of the mana burned you take as damage, just like every other source of mana burn in the game, which actually mean that Cogs do more damage. So Cogs will do 25 additional damage at 1, and all the way up to 4, where they're going to do an additional 70 damage. Which just means that Cogs is a better spell. Increased cost of Crystal Crone, who cares? Dark Willow. Bedlam lasts 0.5 more seconds, which I think is a huge buff, because it does 70 damage 4 times a second, which means that's 2 hits of 70. That's what it ends up being. Because of the attack interval. So it's going to hit 2 more times just in the regular amount of time it's on there, which is mad annoying. Now Thunderstrike always slows for the full duration of 0.4, even at level 1, so it's going to be much stronger in lane for stopping people from getting away. They nerfed illusions on Dragonite's Elder Dragon form, basically, and they also decreased the effect of Corrosive Breath so that it doesn't stop you from blinking and shit for as long. Whatever, it's fine. Drow got a nice cooldown buff on late game multi-shot, which I think is amazing because it helps her farm, so now Drow will be more farmed as the game goes on. Excellent. 30 damage rolling boulder and Earth Spirit, who cares? Oh, you love this in Furry. Ember Spirit. His base charge restore time on ult went down by 3 seconds.
I don't care about anything on Ember except Sleight of Fist. Sleight of Fist needs a fucking nerf, and clearly nobody else thinks so, so I'm just wrong.
I mean, any buff to Ember Spirit's annoying.
Honestly, I just don't care. Sleight of Fist is my only issue with him.
Alright, I think I might be exaggerating, but I think Void is no longer playable. Time Dilation is one of, it's a good spell. Now the slow per cooldown has to scale up, so it's even less impactful, because they already nerfed it before. They nerfed it last patch, so they're nerfing it again. And the mana cost starts higher, but it still goes to the same. But like, it just hurts the early game time dilation. I just don't think that he has the answers to a lot of heroes now. He's just gonna get pushed out of lane. I could be wrong, but yeah. Don't care about talents. Don't care about talents very much. Don't care. Ooh, Frost Shield. This is a Sonic buff right here. The damage of Frost Shield starts a little bit lower, but it actually scales to be more late game, and a lot more actually, 10 per tick, which it lasts long enough that that's actually meaningful. And Chain Frost can now be targeted on Ice Spire as the initial target, which sometimes would be beneficial depending on the situation. So nice little Lich love. We love that. We're getting to the point where I didn't read much further. Lifestealer, his movement speed on Rage got nerfed by 3% at all levels. That's really bad. Lifestealer needs to catch people. If he's not that fast, he has to buy Blink Dagger. I think he has to get something like crazy, you know what I mean? And his Aghanim Scepter, which is jumping into someone, he has to be closer now. And Open Wounds, he has to be 200 closer, which means he can't even slow you as easily to catch up to you. I think this is like really fucking neuters Lifestealer. I'm not saying he's not playable, but you just have to do different builds now to be faster instead of doing as much damage or being tankier, which is going to change the way that he plays. Mars got a cooldown nerf on Arena, just has to scale back to 90. No one cares. Mirana's 5 slower, thank God for that. Maybe we can actually kill her in lane. Pango has been ruined. I actually think Pango might be unplayable. So everyone's going to look at this and say, well, let's do the math. The math doesn't matter. It doesn't. It really doesn't. If you believe that the math on the damage for the number of strikes he does on Swashbuckle matters, you don't understand how Swashbuckle works. He is trying to proc Diffusal. He is trying to proc Maelstrom. He is trying to proc whatever, Basher. So when
you shouldn't be able to proc anyway.
When you reduce one of his hits, you're losing all that potential damage, as well as like Mana Burn having its effect or Basher having an other effect besides the damage itself. So we'll do the math anyway, though. So he used to do 4 times 25 at level 1. That's 100. Now it does 3 times 30, which is 90. So 10 less damage on top of that at level 1. At max level, he was doing 4 times 85. I don't have a 1. That's
360.
Is that correct? 80, 320,
340.
340. All right, so he used to do 340. Now he does 360. So technically speaking, he gets 20 more damage at max level. That's in relation to like not getting a proc on Maelstrom. So that's never going to balance out. I actually believe that Pangolier might be unplayable. I'm not sure, but I feel it might be true. This change right here, I don't think I'm going to play Pango at all. I think it ruins the hero. Unplayable. Nerf to early game onslaught damage, fair. Nerf to Aghanim Scepter, the uproar damage, also fair. Puck, they nerfed his shard, giving him extra enemy search range on the attack on phase shift. And they also nerfed his attack speed on Dream Coil by 10%. So basically just nerf to right-click Puck. That's all it really is. It only changes right-click Puck. If you're not a right-click Puck, it doesn't change anything. Alright, Sand King. Base damage increased by 2. Strength gain decreased by 0.4. I think this is a nerf to Sand King. He needs to be tanky. He does not need to do damage. I think he's still playable. And it's nice to have a really good last-hitting control. Or, trading with a melee core. However, not being as tanky as he levels up, 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, I think it's just more important. On top of the fact that over time, the Strength Gain was going to give him damage anyway. Now, it won't be as much as it looks, because Sand King is now universal, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, yes? I think Sand King's universal. I don't remember. But regardless, the damage would eventually counterbalance the 6 regardless, so he'll have less damage late game, either way. So I'm not sure if it's the right move or not, but he'll be squishier for sure. Shadow Fiend now has his minimum mana cost always. That's minor, but that definitely is a buff for Shadow Fiends in lane. Silencer got a huge, unbelievable buff. Now the temporary instill he has when he just hits you with glaives. It used to be 1, 1, 2, 3. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So at level 2, level 3, and level 4, it is increased by 1 at all of those levels. So he just steals more int, meaning he does more damage, has a bigger int pool, and you have less int to cast. So I don't know why they would do that. That's obnoxious. Snapfire, now when she's point blank, she gets an extra bonus of attack slow, movement slow, and slow duration increased by 50%. which makes sense. Yeah. Her cookie travels a little faster too. Minor. Sven got a base armor nerf, which makes him harder to lane as, which is fair. Techie's got a sticky bomb cooldown nerf. It's 3 seconds more at earlier levels, but it scales back. I think that's fair. Meld's bonus damage was increased at later levels by 30. Wow. It goes 0, 10, 20, 30. Yeah. Okay. I guess TA hasn't played as much as she used to be, so that's fair. Reflection on TB does less damage early. Still scales up to the same, though. And the radius was decreased by 100, making it harder to hit people from a very far range. You have to actually have to be close to do it. 100 range is a big nerf, actually. Means he can't chase you as well, either. Timber Chain does less pure damage. I'm about to be done, by the way, guys. I'm at the end. Timber Chain does less pure damage. It went down by 10. And at later levels, it went down by 25. So I'm assuming 10, 15, 20, 25. That's pretty painful because it's pure. Reactive armor, the max stacks were decreased by 3 at earlier levels. It has to scale up, making him less tanky as well. That's going to make it very hard to play early game Timbersaw. Tinker got a base armor increase of 2. For what reason, I don't know. And the cast range of defensive matrix went up at all levels. It starts higher and it gets even higher. So, like, instead of 650 at all levels, it scales to 850. I mean, I don't care. Nobody is ever like, wow, Tinker cast defensive matrix on someone else from a really far away. Nobody cares, but it's so annoying. Tiny, the bonus base damage of tree grab was decreased by 6 at the early levels, but scales up. I think that's good. Because it's percentage, right? No, it's an actual raw number. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad to see it nerfed. It's not so obvious that it'll just get all the last hits and dies.
No, he still will.
Yeah, he probably will. Fervor for Troll, his Aghanim Shard max stacks bonus was decreased from 4 to 3, meaning he has one. When he has Shard, he has 1 less max stack, which is probably needed. He has way too many at that point. Underlord, I haven't got this far, by the way. This is all new to me. Pit of Malice, the Aghanims no longer slows enemy movement speed by 40%. Now increases the radius by 100. Okay. So instead of slowing, it just makes it bigger. And I think that's probably worse because you want the slow more, I'm assuming. But it's still an interesting change. Jesus Christ, Falcon. Motherfucker. Oh, you got me. You got me, Falcon. I think it's interesting either way. Bonus damage per creep was increased from 2 to 8 to 3 to 9. So just 1 at all levels. I think that's fine. He doesn't seem to get a lot of damage from creeps anyway, especially early games, so I think that's good. Now you can get a talent that increases the slow. It's not as much. It's not 40%, but it's 30, so it'll work out, actually. They just moved basically a talent over and changed the numbers. Overpower, slow resistance was rescaled, so that's worse early, better late. I think that's fair. I always forget that Overpower even has slow resistance, so cool. Void Spirit, Dissimulate, damage increased by 20 at all levels. That's fine. Geminate Attack damage increased by 5 at all levels. That's annoying because it hits you, obviously it's an annoying attack. I think the biggest changes here, in summary, BKB nerf, Divine Rapier nerf, a buff to evasion because of these items, stacking nerf. Will actually change meaningfully. Most heroes are going to be the same, honestly. Like all these heroes up here are basically the same. Lifestealer, big nerf, so that's going to be something everyone's going to notice, and they're going to feel the change. Pangolier, unplayable. Silencer is going to definitely come back a little bit stronger in the meta. I think, anyway. Yeah, that's about it. So nothing crazy. I actually am much more interested in this new ban thing. I think that's very interesting. So now you can just, it changes the way that we're going to ban, essentially. So I'm going to be on to play Dota in about 5 seconds, so nobody leave. If you're intending to watch Dota, I just have to technically end the video because I want my patch video to be separate from my actual play video. So for those on YouTube, I appreciate you guys for watching. See you next time. For those of you on Twitch, give me like 2 minutes.